So the first thing I wish I knew when I was going to start Palworld is that you should capture a minimum of 12 pals. So this is a really good way to get levels quickly in Palworld, because I've played a lot of Pokemon and other creature collecting games, and usually I like to collect one of every type of creature, because you just want to collect them and level them up. It's not an issue to get to endgame. However, in Palworld, your character has a level, and leveling up your character also gets you a ton of technology, weapons, and all sorts of cool stuff. So if you look in the bottom right here, you can see that there are capture bonuses up to 12. So this means it will give you extra XP for every time you capture that specific pal up to the 12th time. So you want to capture every pal 12 times to get the most XP possible. This is how I've already hit level 48 in such a short time, because I've been going through slowly, capturing these pals at least 12 times, which is now giving me currently about 20,000 XP per capture of a pal that isn't at that 12 bonus yet, which is just absolutely incredible. So I'll be hitting endgame at level 50, 60, whatever it is, very soon based on that. So always at a minimum capture 12 of every pal. Then of course, this is a base building game. Before I started, I wish I knew that we could actually build multiple bases, because if you go to base upgrade, you can see that we've unlocked 8 bases so far, but we're probably going to be able to get, I think, a max of 10, once we've reached the correct base level. And that means you have multiple bases to do whatever you like in. Now, in this case, Palworld requires a lot of resources because things at the end game are very expensive. So you're going to need a lot of stone, you're going to need a lot of iron, you're going to need a lot of coal, sulfur, quartz, all of that type of stuff. So I would dedicate a base to each of those things you're going to need, each resource. I have a base for breeding as well, just on top of that, and a farm, so you can get a lot of food, cake materials, and just a breeding ranch, and also just having those resources when you need them. For example, we just set up a sulfur base, and it's a brand new sulfur base, and we've already made over 5,000 sulfur, which is absolutely incredible. So making sure you take some time to actually build up bases for specific resources that you're going to need is going to be a great way for you to progress through Palworld. Now, when I first started playing Palworld, I didn't think breeding was so important or going to be as important. Obviously, it's important in Pokemon endgame for when you're trying to breed shinies and whatnot, but in Palworld, I didn't really consider it as something important. However, after playing it for a while, I wish I knew that it really is super duper important. It's one of the best ways for you to get the better pals very early on. If, for example, we crafted or bred an Anubis, which is very good at building stuff in the base and helping you build and craft, so you really want an Anubis as fast as possible for that. It's just one of those meta pals that are just insane, and the best way to get that early on is actually to just straight up breed it. Now, of course, this also will help you get eggs, and as you breed pals, they also count towards the capture rate, which we spoke about before. So you don't have to really capture 12 pals, you can also technically breed them, because hatching the eggs for that pal will also contribute to that extra XP, which is just very nice. Which also means you should go out and collect all the eggs you see in the wild, and then hatch those as well for a bit more extra XP while you're about doing your own business. The next thing as well is I wish that I knew about this expedition system, because I played the game when it first came out and I don't recall this expedition system being in there. However, this expedition system is very good. You can get a whole bunch of resources and pal spheres for, as you can see here, we just got 3 hyperspheres and 4 ultraspheres for completing this with a whole bunch of resources, so we're just going to take that. And if we go to open it up, you can see we have different areas with lower risk, and the higher risk we get, the better the rewards. As we progress through the game, we're going to start getting ultimate and exotic spheres, including crude oil as well, which is an endgame resource, just by sending pals on missions. Now, you are going to need a certain amount of firepower and types of pals to do this, but as you can see here, we can auto-assign, and we can get a 59% chance to get our rewards at the end by sending our pals. As you progress through the system, you're going to obviously get better pals in the future. So here you can see Cave in the Grassland would take 30 minutes. However, because we hit 100% firepower and more, we then lower the time from half an hour to 7 minutes. So the timer is only going to be that full time as long as you're underneath the 100%. The higher you go from the 100%, the lower time it's going to take to actually farm these materials. So I would always recommend doing the highest expedition you have access to, rather than the lowest one, just because the rewards get better as you progress through. As you can see here, the ultimate exotic spheres, I can't wait to unlock that after the Faybreak Tower. But that's going to take a while for you to get through, so you should always be doing the highest expedition tier that you have available to you during the game. Expeditions are literally free rewards that are happening in the background while you're playing the game. It's one of the best ways to get extra items without a lot of effort. So the next one I wish I knew as well is the ranches. You kind of want to get a couple ranches going because these are super helpful. You can farm a lot of resources by having ranches. For example, the cows, the mozzarinas, they produce milk, which helps us create cakes for breeding. The bee guards will produce honey, which is also for helping with the cakes. The chickpeas will give us eggs, which again is food. The woolly pops will then give us like cotton candy, which helps with the sanity as well. And the other ones I want to mention as well is muds. You can put these in, which will produce a high quality pal oil, which is excellent for endgame activities. And you'll also be able to get a pal called a Vixie as well, which is excellent for early game because this will produce gold, arrows, and the regular pal spheres. As you actually condense more pals into the Vixies, they even have a chance to drop up to ultra spheres, but that's as high as they'll go, which is a bit sad. It'd be nice if they dropped some more of the end game pal spheres, but obviously early game players would then abuse this, so I can see why they haven't. But if you're in the early game, get some Vixies because you're going to help really save a lot of resources by getting those pal spheres for free. Now, as you can see here, we also have these Sibilexes as well, which are also very nice for the end game because they produce high quality cloth, which is just amazing. There's a few other pals that will do other things, but I'll let you explore that one. Now, another thing I wish I knew before playing the game was that there's this weird condenser menu. Now, I'm very used to just having to get a pal or get a creature and start to build it up in strength just by using it and leveling it up. In Palworld, it's a slightly different system because you can get a pal and then you can feed other versions of that pal into it to power it up. Now, you can actually do this very easily. You just build a condenser and you start to throw the pals in there. Obviously, pals have different skills that you might want to keep or might want to get rid of. I would always throw the worst ones into the better ones just because if you make your better ones better, then that's a really strong, better pal. It's a really easy system to get your head wrapped around, and it's just very nice for you to do with the extra pals you capture. Because I know a lot of people are like, well, the game's making me capture 12 plus pals. What am I going to do with them? And obviously here, you just power up the ones that are better. Another thing I wish I knew as well is you can get this research station, which is very nice. It's called a PAL Labor Research Laboratory. Now, I didn't realize this was in the game the first time around. I don't think it was. I think this is something they added with an update. Then you can see that you can actually upgrade your PAL base. So here we've already bought one upgrade, which lets us increase handiwork work speed by 10%. The next upgrade we can go for is an extra 5% on that, which just helps the PALs be more efficient. You can see here there's even an effect which gives us a probability chance to increase the amount of spheres we craft when we're doing that, which is just mind-blowing. The amount of upgrades you can get in handiwork, kindling, watering, planting, electricity, lumbering, mining, cooling, and medicine production is just insane. It is well worth trying to make your way through the skill trees here because it's just going to make your bases much more efficient, especially when you're getting towards the end game. Now, another system that players might come across is these little statues that look like LIF Monks. They're called LIF Monk effigies. Now, you want to pick these up whenever you find them. What I'd actually recommend is try and keep track of which ones you have and which ones you haven't, because the more you have, the more you can do an upgrade at one of these statues that looks like Anubis, where you can enhance your player capture power. Now, capture power is very important because this is how strong you're going to be when you're trying to capture a pal. At endgame, you're going to need a lot of higher level pal spheres because the capture rate is so low and capture power is so low compared to those higher levels, which makes the game much more difficult. At the early level of the game, you're not going to have an issue with this with a regular pal sphere or the next one up or the next one up. It's going to be quite simple. However, you want to get these LIF Monk effigies to increase your capture power as fast as you can, just because it's going to help you out, especially if you're capturing 12 of every pal, and some of those pals are very high level. This is going to be something you're going to want to do. I wish I knew beforehand because I would have kept track of this if I knew, but I'm going to have to go through and just find the ones I haven't got. Okay, the next one to talk about are these Syndicate Barge Oil rigs. Now, there are oil rigs all spread across the map. These are pretty good, but they're very well guarded by a lot of the different enemies. Sometimes they even have defenses like a whole laser cannon, which is very quick to destroy you. As you can see here, this one here is a level 30 barge oil, so I wouldn't recommend doing this as an early game player. Again, it's something I wish I knew because when you see something out in the distance that looks cool when you start the game, you're like, oh, that looks cool, I'm going to go and explore. You're going to get absolutely shredded, but once you hit the required level and can actually take these on comfortably, you are then going to get a couple of good rewards. I see a lot of people farming these for legendary assault rifles in endgame, and you can just get a lot of cool blueprints that increase the gear you can already craft which is very nice. These are definitely worth farming when you get the required level. And then for the last one, I wish I knew just how big some of these updates for the game would be. When Palworld first came out, this island here was not released. As you can see, the island came out, they added a whole bunch of new pals, but this island features like 2 of these like weird bounties and 2 alpha pals. Daybreak just came out during December this year, last year, 2024, and they added an entire new island that is basically massive. It's huge. There are so many different new alpha pals, so many new bounty hunters that you can go and capture. It is just insane. The amount of content they add with these updates is just mind-blowing. It's incredible to see a game like this add huge updates, and I wish I knew that. Obviously, it's an endgame island, so you're going to have to progress through this. So if you're someone starting to play for future updates, please be aware that you're going to have to make your way through the entire game before you can get to some of those updates. Because obviously I know a lot of players will see an update coming out and they'll jump back into the game without realizing that they're going to have to go through the game again to get to that new update. So if you are a returning player, make sure you're using a save where you've already played on the game and finished most of the end game so you can come and enjoy the new end game, which is the newer updated islands. Anyway guys, that's it for this Palworld video. I hope you had a great time watching it and it helps you in any way or form. If you did, please click the like button and also subscribe for more Palworld videos in the future, and I will see you again in the next one.